Welcome back to Speed Tipping Favorites.
Back to a table. This was the most popular set of tips by far this year, were how to deal with the ABCs. Everybody wants to get rid of the ABCs from the table. And I'm using the last name and first name that I did before. There's a couple different ways you could do this. So right out of the gate, my first tip or trick on this one is change it to a polygon. If you change it to a polygon, polygons don't have labels and they'll disappear. So nothing is there. Now just notice if you multi-select here, you do get the marks. The marks still exist, but there's no ABC anymore. The thing you have to be careful about this is putting play control or animation on here. Polygons don't work well with that. I could put a blank text on here. I could double click and do an inline formula, a quote and a space and a quote, and now put that on the label, and it's gone. There's no ABC. Notice there are still marks here. You can still kind of highlight over them and you can click on them, but for all intents and purposes, the ABC is gone. The next thing you could do is change the color or the size. Just go through these quick. I could change the color to white. A lot of people do that. Just note that when you click on it, you can still see your ABCs, or when you hover, the ABCs are still there. You could change the opacity to 0. People do that a lot, and the ABCs are gone. But same thing, the ABCs are still there. If you click on them or hover them, you'll still get them in your table. So what a lot of people will then do is resize this to really thin. Go out here to the column, and they'll just say, well, I'll just make it really thin, and the ABCs will disappear. That kind of works, but when you hover over it, you'll still see there's a mark in there. So just be careful about how you do that. Any mark type will really work, by the way. You can actually click this over to a pie chart and make it a pie chart, and then do these tricks and just say, you know what, opacity at 0 and white, and just resize. You could do anything. Another popular one that's useful for a lot of things is to use a blank transparent shape. Now you have to have this loaded in, but what you're going to do is go down to change this to a shape. And when you load in a transparent shape, I have it in my miscellaneous folder, so I'm going to go down to miscellaneous, and my first shape in miscellaneous is an empty shape. And when I click on that empty shape, there it is, it's gone, there's no ABC. Notice that I can still sort of move around and highlight and do this. There's a hover over here, but there's no mark on the multi-select. So that's actually a really good solution for this. And again, you could resize your columns and just make your column really small, and you pretty much resolved the ABC. This is a formulaic one, really popular. You duplicate your first name. What we're going to do is hold the control key down, and I'm going to duplicate it to text. And I'm going to put the first name on text. Once I do that, I'm going to right-click up here and uncheck Show Header. Now I don't have the Show Header. I've kind of resolved it. There's no ABC anymore, but you might want to add your first name in here on your list. So to solve for that, what we're going to do is go get the measure names, and we're going to put our measure names on the column. That'll put up no measure name, and then we're going to right-click on it and edit the alias to be the first name. And so by doing that, we now have, if I spelled it correctly, edit the alias, we now have first name as our alias, and we have no ABC. And the last one, I guess, I don't really know what to call this. This is a cheat code in Tableau, or I don't know, a kill code in a video game or something. But I'm going to use the control key to size the column. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to size this ABC column out 3 times. 1, 2, 3. We're going to make it really big by doing that 3 times out. Then we're going to drag the size of the column to be as narrow as possible. And then I'm going to control key left arrow to make it smaller 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the column is gone. No ABC column. It's not there. You can't select the marks, and you just have a normal 2-column view here. If you want to get that back, that's very important. Because you can't right-click, and you can't. There's no column to make wider. You're going to go to Format, and down under Format, you're going to go down to Cell Size, and your cell size, click on Text Cell, and it will set all of your cells back, and you have your default back to your ABC. I have a blog post on how to do this, and it has a bunch of check marks for you to tell you what works and what doesn't work. So be sure to check out this blog post for further information on these techniques. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Lorna.
Thanks, Jeff. That rows and columns one is just insane. I've always been wondered how you can remove that option, but now I definitely know. So thank you very much. Okay, so back onto my third set of tips. So like Jeff showed you, if you have the mark at the end of the line, you can use forecasting. But what happens if you have a little bit of space, but you want the labels to be on top or below your point? So what we can do here is we can add a reference line, which is a distribution. And here we can do 110% of our maximum sales. And then what we can also do is we can add in another reference line, which is -10 of our minimum sales, which then takes it down. We can then remove our label and remove our tooltip. And we can also go back into this one and do the same. So now what we have is we have our reference line in here, which now makes you have the labels on top, and this one should be at the bottom, but it's just slightly out. Ever wanted to stop your users from completely drilling down into your dashboard and ruining your analysis? Well, now you can do that. So what we can do is we can create a custom date hierarchy. So we have our order date in months, and what we can do is we can create a custom date for our order date in years. I'm going to do date value, and I'm going to duplicate it, control and hit both of those, and do create, go down to hierarchy, and we're going to create a new hierarchy. I'm just going to call this custom date. Now when I go into here, I just need to remove my years up above, first thing, and now I'm just also going to change these to both to discrete. So if I remove this from my view and I bring my years in, what I can do is if I now click months, I now don't have the option to drill down further, and I can only drill up. So it gives you the option to stop people from drilling down a little bit more. Calendars, they're always fun to build, but no one quite knows how to. So let me show you how to do this. So first off, I'm going to bring in just 1 month of my data. So I'm going to filter to the latest data in my view. I'm then going to add order date again, but I'm going to go option drag order date to here, and I'm going to change this to week. And I'm going to option drag order date again and change this to weekday. Now we have some resemblance of a calendar. Again, order date to text, change this to day. This allows us to put our day on our calendar itself. And then finally, the option is here to add sum of sales and change that back to a square. And we can see heavily where our sales is good and where our sales is not so good. A dot plot is a super useful way of showing different data. So we have our reference here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to do the average of 1. And I'm going to set this as a dual axis. So right click, dual axes, and then right click again and synchronize. So now you can see up to 1. I'm going to remove that label. I'm going to change this to a bar, and I'm going to make it nice and thin. I'm also going to change the color so that it is a light gray. And now we have our line. I can also take my labels off, but you have sort of like a dot plot reference so that you can see where your percent of total is compared to what would be 100%. So you can see that. Also, notice how my whole screen is in the wrong places. And if you're used to Tableau, you'll get used to things being in certain places. So my marks card is now over there. But what we can do is if you go to worksheet and go down to show cards, if you reset those cards, it will then go to the correct places, which is nice. Now, rounded bars are a little bit of a heated topic sometimes, but I'm going to show you it anyway. So what we can do is we can use something, instead of using bars, we're actually going to use lines. So I'm going to drag and dual axis, shared axes, and I'm going to move measure names to my details. Nothing's happened yet. I'm going to change this to a line. I'm going to put measure names on my path, and I'm going to turn my labels off for now. Now we have if I make them a bit thicker, you'll see that I have a rounded bar chart using a line. Now to just push this boundary a little bit more, if I command or control and move measure values to color, you can create a gradiented bar chart if you wanted to. Final section from me, in pill formatting, you have this lovely Comic Sans thing. But if I want to change this to category instead, if I drag category on top, you'd think it'd keep it, but no, it doesn't. The way to keep the formatting is actually just double click and then put category in there, and then it will keep that formatting in there as well. Also, you might want to stop people from changing the sort order, just because people do like to play with these things. So what you can do is if you go to worksheet and then show sort controls. This will turn them off so no one can then play around with that. Back to you, Jeff.
Great, thanks, Lorna. For my next section, I'm going to cover some quick ones. Unicode characters are really, really handy that you can literally just copy and paste them into Tableau. In this case over here on the marks shelf, you'll see I just copy and pasted, hit Control C. You can paste that really anywhere you want. In fact, you can go over here to where I'll just go to last name and just edit it, that calculated field. You can put it in the text box, so Unicode characters can live in there too. And that's great ways to get them in your title, your text, your access label, or anything like that. There's a couple links down here for some catalogs for you. I use those a lot. Multiple reference lines. This is a COVID, just tracking COVID in Ohio. And I had a bunch of events when we opened retail for dining and the gyms and childcare and the protests and so on, and just trying to track what's going on. Well, what if I wanted to format all of these? Originally, I was going to try to do them in different colors, and that really didn't work. I just want my reference lines to be the same color. Well, easy way to do that. If you were to right-click on a reference line, you can go to Format, and that's where the color is handled. But if I have all of these reference lines, I'm going to use my Control key and click and multi-select the reference lines and take them all at once. And so I can select any reference line that's in the view and go over here and change the color. I'm going to make them all black, and they're all black. If I want to make them all gray, I can make them all gray. Same for the text. I could change the font as well. If I want to make the font bold and orange, I can make them orange and bold, or I can make them gray and not bold. So a great way to format multiple things at once. Fast totals from your analytics page. I used to do this all the time, used to drive me crazy. I would go up to my analysis, go down to my totals, and I'd have to pick. Do I want to show my grand totals? Do I want to show my column totals, my row totals? I could add all the subtotals, and then it adds subtotals. But what if I just want to add it all? I'm going to go over to the Analytics tab next to my Data tab, and I'm going to drag totals. Instead of putting it on the subtotals or the column grand totals, I'm going to drop it right on the table itself, like the ABCs, and that's going to add all of the subtotals and the grand totals at the same time, so I don't have to click them separately. Really fun shortcut there. All right, the next one I'm going to show is showing empty rows. We use this all the time. You have this clean table. It has a marginal histogram on it, and the problem occurs when I start to filter for state and I go to, say, Alabama. My table just sorted down, and I don't have all of the ship modes and subcategories because they don't all exist for Alabama. So what I'm going to do, I'll leave it on Alabama so you can see how this works, but I'm going to click on the chart, the worksheet, and I'm going to go up to Analysis. I'm going to go down to Table Layout and click Show Empty Rows. And that's going to show my empty rows. I'm going to do the same thing for the second chart. Just click on the second chart, go to Analysis, go down to Table Layout, Show Empty Rows. And now it shows the empty rows even when there's no value. So it makes it really clean when you go from all to, say, Alabama to Arizona. It also makes the transitions really nice because we don't have any empty spaces now that collapse on our chart. This is really handy. You want to look at some data here. Maybe you just want the points for the values where life expectancy is really high. I can just multi-select any points up here, as few or as many as I want. I can just hit Control C, and then I'm going to open up Excel, and I'm going to just paste Control V into Excel, and those are the points right there that I just copied. So you can copy your data right out from your points, bar chart, scatter plot, or whatever. There's your life expectancy for all the really high countries that are up here that I selected. So if you really want to get down into your data, you can also do the same thing by simply clicking on the View Data, and that will give you the data of those summary points as well, and you can also copy them out of here or export them even if you need to. So really quick way to get to that. You can also drag data to Tableau. I use this all the time. So I'm going to go into some COVID data here, and I just have some daily COVID data. You can drag this file. This is the most recent data. Just drag the files right into your Tableau canvas, and it'll open up, and there's your quick import to your data. You don't have to find your file if you have it open or whatever. You can also drag it onto your icon on your canvas. Let's look at some dual access formatting really quickly. I want to make a lollipop chart or something with a dual access. I'm going to duplicate my sales pill. Well, when I duplicate my sales pill, I get the duplicate of both of those pills. And my first one was automatic, and my second one was automatic. So here's what happens is if I'm set to automatic, and I force it, let's just say I want to go, I'm going to make this, I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to make the second one circles. Well, if the second one is a circle and the first one is automatic, when I do a dual access, it's going to blow up my chart and make both of them circles. Instead of doing that, if I make my first one a bar and force it to a bar and force my second one to a circle, then when you go to your dual access, it won't mess up your formatting. It'll keep your bar and your dot. That way you can size your bar really small, you can size your dots really big, and you can get a lollipop chart without it messing with your format. Always remember to right-click and synchronize your axis in a chart like that so you don't offset your data. Real quick custom map. How do you create a map that looks like this in Tableau without using Mapbox? I love this, use this all the time. You have a lot of options. Lorna showed this with double-clicking a geographic field. I'm just going to double-click city just to get some cities on a map. I'm going to go up here into my map quick and just type Cincinnati, and now I find Cincinnati, Ohio, and boom, I got Cincinnati, Ohio, and there I am right there with Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to go up to my map on my menu and click Map Layers. And in my map layers, what I'm going to do, I'm going to really quickly add streets and highways. I'm also going to zoom in real quick to downtown just so I can add building footprints. They won't show up unless I'm zoomed way in. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take off base. And so I'm going to uncheck base. That's the magic. I'm going to uncheck base. Then I'm going to right click on my map and choose format. And when I format my map, I can go to my pane color under shading, go to pane color and change it to whatever I want. And now you'll see that I can have some color on my map. Now, it's not quite exactly the same as what I had before. So I'm going to go back to my map layers and just show you what happens when I start moving my layers around. For example, I probably don't want land cover, and maybe I want dark instead of light. So I'll move to dark instead of light, and now you'll see I have these building footprints really quickly, on the map to get a map that really looks like this. Another cool one is I want the latitude and longitude of the UC Stadium. That's where the Bearcats play, right there, or the College of Business is right nearby there. I'm going to right-click on that. I'm going to annotate the point. By clicking annotate the point, I'm going to go into my insert tab. I'm going to click latitude, longitude, and click OK. And I've just annotated that point. That's the latitude and longitude of the UC Bearcat Stadium. We just geocoded in Tableau. So that's kind of fun. And with that, I'm going to stop and pass it back to Lorna for her last set.
Another set of awesome tips by Jeff. So let's see if we can finish this off on a high. So I want to have a Vision Tooltip style dashboard. So how do we do this? I have taken most of these tips from Jeff. So let's see how he reacts. So what I want to see is I want to see my subcategory sales inside my tooltip. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my subcategory sales. So I know it's this sheet. I'm going to change the maximum width to be 610. So you can see here I've got my subcategory sales. I also then want to add my sales over time and my top 10 customers. So I'm going to add those in a new line. I'm going to insert sheet number 3, and directly next to that I'm going to insert sheet number 4. So now when I click OK, you'll see that those sheets are now side by side. The next section is we want to differentiate between those. So we have our row dividers on, and we have our column dividers. So back into here, I'm going to go into my tooltip, and in a new line, I'm going to insert sheet number 5. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to change this to a maximum width of 610. I'm going to change the maximum height to 9. If I click OK, what's going to happen is it's going to put that line directly across between my top and my bottom. And now I just want a line in between my 2 other sheets. So in between my tooltip 3 and 4, I'm going to go insert sheet number 6. I'm going to remove that space that we have now. I'm going to change the maximum width to be 9. And I'm also going to keep the maximum height to be 300. So when I click OK, this has now got a line underneath between my 2 charts and between the 2 side-by-side charts. Jeff mentioned before about using the Polygon Shape. So this is kind of what we're going to do here. When we have bands, big actual numbers, we can use them, and we don't need a tooltip. What we can do is if I delete my sheet name from my title and go insert sales, I can center this. Click OK. And now when I change this to a polygon, my tooltip disappears and I now just have my big ass number on my title. What happens then is if I go into my dashboard and drag this in to my container, it's going to give it enough space to actually have the space for the ban. Whereas if I have this as a text field, when I go into my dashboard, you'll see that my text is kind of here and it's disappeared a little bit. So to have this just as a polygon makes it a lot easier to have your bans. Finally, from me, what we're going to do is we're going to use the show hide container. So if I double click on my filters, I want to show and hide this depending on what we click on. So I'm going to change this to floating first off, and then I'm going to click the little drop down and add show hide button. Now when I have this, if I click option, it will close it, and when I click option again, it's going to open it again. So this is how you then use the show hide containers. Back to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Lorna. I really love that band trick. I'm definitely going to be using that one, the polygon thing. That's so cool. I think we're running close on time here, so I'm going to just do a couple speed tips here just to kind of finish us off. This one, again, back to my COVID viz, I was monitoring COVID across the U.S., and these are all of the counties in California. And the governor of California tweeted out that there were 30 counties that were impacted. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go into Tableau and click each one of these in the filter. So what I did is I just came to his tweet. He had them all listed here. I went Control-C to copy those in there. Just be careful, pay attention to LA, because LA is actually Los Angeles in our data set. But here's how I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to go to the filter. I'm going to go down to where it says multi-value custom list. It's going to give me a text box. I'm going to paste my values into the text box, and now I'm looking at just the 30 counties, except LA is incorrect. So I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to click X on LA. I'm just going to go up here and type Los Angeles to get Los Angeles correctly. That'll find the value I'm missing, and now I have exactly the ones that the governor said. I can also, by the way, kick this back down to a multi-value list like I have before, and just the checks are checked for the 30 counties, so I didn't have to manually go through them and check them. Okay, real quick, when I'm teaching Tableau, I tell people the columns are your x-axis, your rows are your y-axis. Well, when I'm training, maybe I just want to drag the columns down and put them on the x. Maybe I'll drag my rows and put them on the y. And now, as Lorna was moving around some of the cards before, now we can kind of see where they are on the x and y axis as we're putting pills there. Just remember, you can't back out of that. It manually moves those. You want to build a dashboard really quickly, a 4-panel dashboard. I have sheet 1, 2, 3, and 4. If it's set to tiled, you're just going to double click on them. Sheet 1, double click, sheet 2, double click, sheet 3, sheet 4, and you have a 4-panel dashboard. Really handy if you want to build something out. Also, a great way to have quick containers. If you want to throw a horizontal container on there right off the bat and then double click, they'll go side by side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll all be next to each other. And to get to the container, you click on a worksheet, double click the tab, and you can set them to distribute evenly. So now you have evenly distributed sheets in a container with quick double click. The last one to finish out for you is another very popular one. I have a long list of things, and I want to, I have to scroll down to see them. Quick scroll for you. You right click in your scroll. You can go to the bottom. You can go right click and go to the top. You can also go to any point along your scroll and just right click and just say scroll here, and it'll scroll right to it. It'll also work right to left if you want to scroll right to left in a wide table. So really handy if you're trying to get to the bottom or top of a table. I think with that, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. It's been a pleasure. It's always fun working with Lorna on the tips. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Lorna.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it's been real fun working with you as well. I always love doing these tip sessions. It's just a shame we're not in person to watch people's faces as they watch in awe of some of the speed tipping that we're doing. So thanks for watching. Again, this is part of the Data Fam Community Jam content, and all the other recordings are available on Tableau YouTube's channel. So thank you very much. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at _Lorna_Brown, and Jeff is at High Visibility. Thank you all, and enjoy your day.
Databricks is the data and AI company We help data teams solve the world's toughest problems. They can't be solved in silos. They can't be solved by one person. We need all the data, all the science, all the brain power in one place on the only open, unified platform for data management, business analytics, and machine learning.
Tableau's Biz Jamas, when every day is Casual Friday.
If you are new to Tableau, I would advise you to just be curious. Leaving the comfort zone and trying out new things, this is where great things happen.
Just use all that free content that we have available, all of those free training videos to help you get started and help websites.
To get involved, head to Tableau Public, jump on Twitter and jump in the conversation, get involved in the Tableau forums if you have questions, or if you want to meet like-minded data enthusiasts. The community is here to help every Tableau user succeed.
Coming this fall to Tableau TV, 5 Viz Whizzes bring data to life in full Tableau vision. Get ready for fun and smarts that are off the charts. Seeing is believing with The Visibles. Here they come to save the data. Every Saturday at 8 on Tableau TV.
We love the challenge of big data.
We had a blank page and we had to invent every aspect of the system. Imagine that you have to build a car. Here we had to build everything, right? We have to put the wheels, do the engine, the interior, the design, and every piece of that technology, we had to rebuild it, for the cloud.
Gentlemen, it is our pleasure to introduce to you and to welcome to this stage winner of American Idol Season 12, Candice Glover!